everyone. Welcome back to the Cornerstone Integrative Healing Podcast. It's Carrie here, and I'm with my co-host Jen. And we are on the last section of the series that we've been doing, all about creating a strong health foundation that lasts. And we've already covered spiritual health, first and foremost, emotional health, and now we are on to the physical piece of it, which if you've been around, that's what I spent the entire first season talking about. So of course, that's a piece of the puzzle, and we're excited to talk about some of these topics relating to the physical health piece. In this episode, we wanted to kind of focus on hydration and nutrition, minerals, and how they are just such a big part of our physical health aspect that I think sometimes they often get overlooked, perhaps. And so we're going to kind of dig into that in this episode. Jen, you want to kind of share your thoughts and we'll have a good conversation around this.
Absolutely. I'd love to. I really kind of wanted to start talking, we talk about hydration, which we'll get to minerals, but I want to talk about nutrition, I think first and foremost. Neither of us can talk today, Carrie. Anyway, so obviously we were only designed to get our nutrition through food. That was the God designed. He did not design supplements. He did not design protein powders. He designed food. And so, our nutritional status was designed to get through food. However, because of modern life, we can't always get it through food, right? And so we do need to supplement. And so, and I know I have a background with a company that is exclusively whole foods. So I'm a little bit, jaded. However, in my mind, it makes sense that if we cannot eat organic whole foods, that we take organic whole food supplements. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Now, do we need synthetic supplements sometimes? Absolutely. Does it help? Does it work? 100%. But I think 85% of the time, we need supplements that are foods, in my opinion. And so I just want to spend like a minute on this because I think it's super important. The majority of supplements on the market are synthetic. I would probably say 95%, 90 to 95%. And so while there is a place for some of those, I think it's important to pay attention to what you're taking because they're not really regulated here in the States, right? So basically you can produce a supplement if you want to and put it on the market and have really great marketing and sell a ton of supplements and it not be that effective. But really what it comes back to is the energy of the food. That sounds kind of woo-woo when I said it, but what I mean is food is really grown with sun, water, and fertile soil, and that's super important. And the plants capture the energy from the sun, from the soil, and that's where we get our nutrition. And so it's really important that in a supplement, we kind of get that same thing, is the power. And so the way that, supplements are produced or processed, if they are whole foods, which very few are, how those foods are grown, are all super important. And so the main thing that I want to sort of give you an insight to is on your supplement label. If you have a supplement, you can turn it over. And if you see it says vitamin D as, or vitamin A as, or vitamin E as, it's a synthetic 99.9% of the time. And that's what you want to stay away from. If it's a proprietary blend of foods, that is usually where the magic happens. And because we're sort of stuck on the drug model or the magic bullet model in the sense that you have to have a lot of one substance at a really high dose to get a clinical effect is wrong, right? It's the synergy of the compounds in that plant that exert its effect. And so we're just not used to that concept. Yeah. And so when you're thinking through, if you're looking at a label and it is a proprietary blend and you're looking at the label and you're like, oh, well, there's only 15 milligrams of vitamin C. That's all we were intended to get, right? On a daily basis. And I won't get into what vitamin C is and isn't, but that's kind of my 2 cents, Carrie.
I love it. You have so much knowledge in this area. Don't get you on your soapbox, right?
Right. Yes. I think that ship sailed, but that's okay.
No, it's good. No, it truly is. And I mean, and you might be like, I thought you were going to talk about nutrition and hydration and minerals in this episode, but these two things go hand in hand. And that's why she wanted to start out with this because we can't, I don't want to say we can't. I think with all the stressors that we have, plus the lack of nutrition from our food versus how it used to be, is extremely hard to get every single thing we need from our food only. And
Correct.
so supplements are meant to be used supplemental. I do think we can become way too dependent on supplements, but that's a
Correct.
case by case basis, of course. I think it's just something that we need to pay attention to. It's easy to like overemphasize supplements whenever your diet is not necessarily where it needs to be, let's say. Um, but I do love, like you were saying, a whole food supplement is the next best thing to eating the whole food, and can be used very strategically and just like helping the body get more nutrients so that it works as it's intended. A lot of the other, supplements out there, they're targeted, they're synthetic, and it can be used in a certain way to produce an effect. But is it really helping the body do what it wants to do in the first place? I think that's what you have to kind of think about because that's what's broken in the first place. That's why we have symptoms and, diseases that set in and all those things. So that's my
Yes.
2 cents on supplements.
I love it. I think it's super, you hit on it was that, because soil depletion is such an issue from conventional farming, we just don't get the minerals and the nutrients that we once did get from the foods maybe 50,
Yeah.
100 or even 50 years ago. So, it's
And we're
it
burning through them
at
super
a fast.
fast.
Correct.
That the combination of that is not good. you know,
Right. Right.
that's
Which
the
is
issue.
correct. Which is I had to put my plug in for Relight because we all know I'm obsessed with Relight. Those minerals are burned through so quickly because of modern living, and we're just not getting them in the foods, or we're scared away from them. Sodium is the main one in Relight, of course. We're taught that that is not good for us. Au
Yeah.
contraire, in my opinion, but
Right. Yeah. So
we'll get on that soapbox.
yeah, hydration is obviously we know we should mainly eat whole foods and drink water, let's say. Like it's not a bad place to start, right? You're eliminating a lot of other things. However, now we're just helping you to maybe think deeper as far as, okay, are you getting everything you need from your food? And is your plain water really doing what you want it to do? Because whenever we drink water, we want it to hydrate our cells. But so many people are deficient in sodium and potassium, which are two electrolytes that are needed for the water to get into the cell, that it's not actually doing what we want it to do and hydrating us. And so that's what Jen is saying why she loves a product called Relight. It's from Redmond Real Salt, and it contains that mineral rich salt, um, and plus a few other things that really help to give us what a lot of people are missing from stress, right? Our adrenals burn through sodium, potassium, and vitamin C quicker whenever we're under stress, which is a lot of times for a lot of people now. We just live in a more stressful world. I mean, truly, we've shared a lot of things that you can do to help decrease that. But the sheer fact is that we're just going to have that in our life in this day and time. So adding in something to your water to help it work like we want it to and replenish some of those minerals we've seen in our personally and then with clients, it's a game changer. I mean,
For sure, for
really.
sure. I've seen so many clients tell me, "But I drink so much water, but I drink so much water." But they're still dehydrated.
Yeah.
We see it through many ways. But I just read a study about they did a study on firefighters, and they were actually I think it was a forest fire. Anyway, they gave firemen plain water and they gave firemen electrolyte enhanced water. And the firemen that were drinking the electrolyte enhanced water consumed less fluid, and that was because they were actually getting the water into the cell, right? And
Yeah.
so they needed less water. So if you feel like you're drink and you can't get enough water and you're going to the bathroom a lot, that could be another really sign.
Yeah. Mhm.
You're probably just flushing through the water, and it's a really good sign that you need more minerals.
Yeah. So that might be
And
a really easy thing to add in. And there's other ways that you can get minerals and increase
Electrolytes.
hydration for sure. I mean, I talk a lot
Absolutely.
about adrenal cocktails. I would just make sure you make them strong enough because a lot of times we're dealing with such a deficit that if you add in an adrenal cocktail, which is really just a sodium source, which salt, and then potassium, usually coconut water, and some type of vitamin C, which is like orange juice or some other type of juice that has vitamin C. That's kind of the base recipe, and I'll put a blog post with more information in the show notes. But you just have to make sure you're getting enough per day because it might not be enough to just have one of those, and if it's not strong enough. So that's what I see a lot is people will start doing something like that, but it's still not getting where you're not really seeing a difference. It needs to be way stronger, at least at first, because it's like a big hole that you have. You got to like fill it in, and then you might could go back down. But that's what I see a lot.
Yeah, that's key. So you probably, if you haven't been hydrating with minerals, you probably will have to play catch up for a little bit. And we see this very often before you get to kind of maybe a maintenance, what we could consider a maintenance dose.
Yeah,
So just keep that in mind. Or you might need to go up on your dose if you're having periods of really high stress.
true.
Um,
Yes, I've seen that too. Yeah.
yes,
Like if you're
often.
doing one thing and you had a stressful day, or that could be a lot of different things. Maybe it was just an emotional day, or maybe you didn't sleep well, or whatever it is, it's stress. So your body's responding to that. So you're going to need more, you know?
Right.
So that's just something that goes back to listening to your body and
Correct.
knowing these things. And so that's where education, that we're trying to educate you on this, but then you have to listen to your body and know, you're going to probably need more nutrition with food too on those days to really support that as well.
Absolutely. And
So,
I just want to make a comment about something because I feel like this is talked about often. And organic foods, not only are you not getting the pesticides, herbicides, but you're actually getting more nutrient dense food. So everybody's like, well, the pesticides, fine, right? I'll clear those. But you're actually, you're paying for more nutrient dense food also, which I think is just as important as not getting the toxins. Because, right, like if you have the nutrients and the minerals that you need, you're less likely to hold on to those, to that toxicity, to those
that's true.
chemicals. And so, where you can, prioritizing what the EWU calls the dirty dozen. So
Yeah.
the top sprayed crops, and we can put that in the show notes
Yeah,
too. Um,
definitely.
and then the clean dozen, so the ones that are less sprayed. So make it a priority to buy those dirty dozen organic, and then the less sprayed, of course, you can just get conventional.
Yeah. Well, Jen, while we're on the topic of sodium and potassium, I know we talked about it in relation to hydration, but they do a lot more. Like why, especially salts, like why do you feel like that one is really important of an important mineral?
Well, one is it's used by the adrenal glands excessively during a time of stress. So you will need more sodium in times of stress, as we talk about, just conventional, not conventional, modern life.
Hmm.
We're busy, right? We talk about this, I think, a lot. But also, sodium helps you to produce the digestive juices that you need, specifically stomach acid,
Hmm.
which in our practice we see a lot of clients where digestion is a main focus. I would say the majority probably. So stomach acid is super important, especially as you age, because your ability to produce hydrochloric acid as you age decreases. So after 35 you're just not
Yeah.
as good at it. And then it sensitizes insulin, which again, as we age, insulin sensitivity becomes an issue for a lot of people. That's why we have epidemic rates of diabetes. So um, as we age, and you get high blood pressure and you get diabetes and you get all these what we call sort of metabolic type related, they tell you to stay away from sodium when really sodium, when in balance and not having any kidney or cardiovascular issues, could be an answer for you.
Yeah, for sure. And I just think about all the hormonal issues too that come from insulin being off, or just that blood
Yep.
sugar imbalance.
PCOS. Yep.
That's a big one as well. And just thinking about like as we age in, perimenopause and menopause, like I think minerals are even more key in that because our adrenals take over after menopause. And so if they're shot, then it's going to be a bad transition for you.
Yes. Yes.
Worse,
So
right?
if you're listening and you're in that perimenopausal stage, I would say, 40 to 50, this is the time to be preparing for menopause. Now is the time. This is your time to focus on hydration and blood sugar and all those good
Yeah,
things because you have adaptive energy, you have stored energy, and you want to prepare for that time when the ovaries shut down and the adrenals pick up as much as possible.
for sure. And so I do think it's worth mentioning. I think it's good to invest in a quality salt. I know we can't always do that, but if you cook at home more, um, getting a quality salt like Redmond real salt is good. Crucial 4 salt is good. I mean, I'm not super
Okay.
opposed to pink Himalayan salt. Like if that's all you can get, that's better than just buying regular table salt. But I think it's good. You just get more minerals with it, basically, and it's just less refined.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's just
So,
worth mentioning.
and we can put those three in the show notes for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, definitely. We'll do that. The other one we talked about, Jen, was potassium. This is one that we see that's often depleted as well.
Yes.
And again, it's an
Yep.
electrolyte. So kind of same thing with the hydration piece, but it does play a part otherwise too.
Correct. Yes. So, fluid balance, obviously, blood pressure,
Heart
muscle.
issues a lot as well. A lot of times,
Abs-
yeah. And muscle also, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Because
Yeah.
remember, our body, when we're constantly stressed, our body wants to use the brakes, and the brakes are potassium and magnesium. And so those are two that are very nourishing. And most of the time, Carrie, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, those are the ones that a lot of people are deficient in
Yeah.
as
Oh, yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's because usually sometimes people are getting enough sodium. It's the processed junk sodium, which is the problem, and they're not getting enough potassium in balance.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true. It does take a balance, right? You can't
right,
like overload on one.
right.
That's
Yeah, it
why
doesn't
so
work like that.
often that you will see in any electrolyte mix, it'll be sodium and potassium.
Right.
Should be anyway, but that's usually what you'll see. And another reason we do like Relight is it does have a really good ratio of these.
Correct.
Oftentimes, there's just not enough in these other
Correct.
electrolyte mixes. And so, if you have another electrolyte mix, you just want to look and make sure that one serving has about 800 milligrams of sodium and around 400 milligrams of potassium. If not, you could add extra salt to it. That's one way you could use what you have. And some other electrolyte mixes do have a lot of sugar, so just something to keep in mind. But I think it's good to look to make sure that you're getting enough.
Yeah, I've seen electrolyte hydration quote mixes just have potassium.
Well, that's
Um
true. I mean, yeah,
and you'll feel worse if you're deficient in potassium, sorry, in sodium, or you're exhausted and you start taking something with potassium or magnesium and not enough sodium, you will actually feel worse.
yeah, that's true because it taxes the adrenals. It's like you're telling the adrenals to go, but it still doesn't have what they need, and so you will feel worse. That's true.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So in the whole grand scheme of things with minerals, we kind of wanted to talk about magnesium and calcium also because these are kind of called the macro minerals. They're the most abundant in our body, and I think they're all really important.
Yep.
Obviously, we've really focused on sodium and potassium because so many people are deficient in them. But I mean, magnesium is another one that we don't get a lot from food, and we do burn through it fairly quickly with stress. So
Yeah. That's the one that's almost impossible to get enough through food.
yeah,
You really do absolutely 100% have to supplement with magnesium. And mostly it's because they use a specific um fertilizer, right? Um that is high in other minerals. I can't think of it right now. Phosphates, maybe nitrogen, and it
Mhm.
actually drives magnesium out of the plant.
That's
And
true.
so
Yeah, I've heard of that.
yeah. So because of conventional farming, that's a big one.
Mhm.
But if you're buying organic, lentils or greens, avocados, you know, that would be a good magnesium source, but you're still going to need to supplement.
Yeah. And then calcium was the other macro mineral. And I mean, you can get definitely a decent amount from food for sure. I mean, if you're not eating dairy for some reason, that is a main source of calcium, but you can still get it from greens. I would say mainly cooked greens, but greens in general. And then bone broth, you can get some from eggshells is another way. Like they make
Yeah.
powders with that, that you can get some.
Nuts
But I
and
don't
seeds
think
too.
it's, what do you think about like calcium supplements in general? Because a lot of people say, like, as you age, you need a calcium supplement.
I think it's individualized. You
Mhm.
can't generalize.
No, I agree. I agree with that.
It really is everybody. I know a lot of people are worried about calcium for bone health, which I get, but as Carrie said, calcium is a macro mineral, and you're usually, I'm saying usually, please
Hmm.
don't email me and say a blanket statement. Usually, what I find is 9 times out of 10, they need magnesium more than they need calcium. They'll
Yeah.
need both. It depends. It really does depend on the person. Are there heavy metals present? There's lots of caveats, and that's why it
Hmm.
really is best to work with someone who
Yeah.
understands minerals and nutrition and their ratios and how they work, so that you're not just saying, because I think a lot of times people are like, oh, well, I'm menopausal or I'm postmenopausal, I need calcium. That's not always the case, right?
Right.
And they're usually taking an ionizable calcium, right? And usually for bone health, the best thing to build bone is actually bone. So like, not everybody loves it, but like sardines with bone and things
Or
like that where you're
collagen. I mean, collagen
collagen.
can be a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Um, so I guess my answer to what was not always.
Yeah. Well, it's really minerals are all about balance. And obviously we're kind of just sharing with you which ones we see most in practice that are you're deficient in. But it really is best to test. And so that's why we do an HTMA with every client is to see where are your minerals at. That's the best test to see where they're at. And so a lot of times we might see sodium, potassium in the garbage, and then they're, calcium and magnesium are just through the roof.
Yeah.
That's you just don't know. And so I think it is important not to take supplements blindly. That's another thing. And just because you saw some, ad on TV or, even, and I'm not trying to discount what your doctor's telling you, but if they're saying if you're over a certain age and you need to take this supplement, that's a blanket statement. And so
Correct.
that's what we're saying. Hey, you might want to just look more into it. You might want to see where you're at because everybody's different. And
Correct.
so that's what we would really encourage you to do. And just to really focus on whole foods and trying to decrease some of the stressors in your life because that's really what gets minerals off.
Right. And I just want to say one thing. You mentioned, HTMA, hair tissue mineral analysis. Blood is a really hard place to
Yeah,
look for imbalances
it
because the
is.
body does everything it can to keep the blood homeostatic.
Right.
And so if you really want to look at minerals, HTMA,
Mhm.
and minerals, we spent a lot of time on that. They really are the spark plug for a lot of metabolic processes. And so they really are foundational along with the nutrients, right? And if you look
Yeah.
at foods and you look at plants, the mineral and the corresponding vitamin are always
It
packaged
it's
together in a
crazy.
food.
I
Yeah.
know.
I mean, God did it perfectly,
Perfectly.
obviously.
Yeah.
So, that's the other reason why we like whole foods or, plant-based supplements is because you're usually getting a mineral and um, nutrient together in the
Mhm.
right ratio
Right.
if they're processed correctly.
Yes. Amen. For sure. So, this is the first episode in this series. We're going to have two more. We kind of focus more on just minerals and hydration and nutrition and why, that's really the foundation that our body is trying to build on, right? It's running on those. Is what I meant to say. And in the next two episodes, we're just going to talk about a little bit more about breaking the stress cycle and then also just the daily choices that we make that really do impact our physical health and hopefully encourage you to pick back up some habits that you might have put down or just give you some new things to kind of incorporate into your daily routine because this really is a way of life. I think all of the previous episodes in this series of building a health foundation that lasts are truly a different way of living. And we're all at different places in these three areas, even physically, emotionally, spiritually. And we hope that this is just an encouragement to help you live differently. So thank you
Thanks,
so much
everyone.
for joining us. We're excited to round out this series in the next two episodes, and we'll see you on those.